You mentioned the family farm. Can you tell us about this family farm and how that might have influenced? Because both of you have just such a love of food and sharing it with family.
All of my greatest memories, I don't know about you, were always at the farm.
Sure.
And I said to my husband, not too long ago, my son Albie and I, we had to drive up in that area. And it was in Walton, New York. And I said to Albie, I said, I wish I remember the address. I would drive by it. And if God was watching, if there was a for sale sign on that property, I went home and I said to my husband, if that farm is ever for sale, if I could remember where it was, and I'm sure we could find that easily enough, I'd buy it.
Wow.
Because the memories, we had an Aunt Red.
Yep.
And she was everything you would expect her to be in that era. You know, she was in her 60s, 70s, 60s at that time, really, maybe even late 50s. Red, curly, crimped hair, in the house dress, the whole 9 yards. And she would make the homemade gnocchi and the pasta, and we'd have the big clam bake. Remember the clam bake every year?
The gaboutsel.
The gaboutsel. Oh, the gaboutsel, the sink at my father's sawing, the head, the lamb head.
Do you know, Margaret, do you know what gaboutsel is?
I don't.
Oh,
I was
okay.
about to ask.
Good for
what
you.
is...
It is lamb, sheep.
Okay.
The head.
The head, the brains. And my dad would be there, and we would see this.
Yeah.
And he would saw. It sounds horrible, but it's a wonderful memory in a very crazy way, because I was mortified by it. I never ate it. I didn't want anything to do with it. But that day was such a special day because it was the close of the summer, and we'd invite all the farmers from around, the whole community would come, and we'd have this massive clam bake. But Aunt Red, she would come and park herself there all summer, whatever, and we would make gabardine, gnocchis, homemade, her cheesecake. And everything was around food, and there would be so many people. Our tables, do you remember what our tables were made out of?
Yeah, they were basically, there were some that had barrels and they had plywood.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a door.
Yeah, right, a door.
My father would take a door.
That's right.
And get the horses, the wooden horses, put them down, and sheets.
I remember the tablecloth, the red and white clover tablecloths
Yep.
on that.
And we would have, we'd have sometimes the plastic tablecloth to make the pasta, and then when there wasn't enough tablecloths or linens, we would get sheets, bed sheets.
Yep.
Put them right over the door. And what amazing times. I remember the smell of the grass in the morning, the dew.
That's right. I remember being the meatballs, like Grandma Laurita would be making meatballs. So both our grandmothers were like, they loved to hate each other.
Yes.
And they would be in the kitchen and they would be talking about each other like
best of friends.
Worst of enemies.
They were frenemies.
Yeah, frenemies.
They were frenemies.
They've defined frenemies.
Yes.
And they'd have cooking competitions?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Like my one grandma, Mayano, she was back then she was heavier.
Yeah.
But by the time she passed, she maybe was 85 pounds, always with a cigarette in her mouth, and she talked like this, you know, with the glasses. And that's
Caroline reminds me of her a little.
And she would be like, and every other word was F, you know, whatever. And my
More of the
grandma,
F word.
the F word. We'll explain that to you later.
We'll explain the F word later.
My other grandmother was robust and short, and she had these blue eyes and curly, and I was a fave.
You were. Karen was the family fave.
I was a fave, and she used to call me Tumbelina because of that doll that had the big blue eyes.
Yes.
And she would call me Tumby for short, and she would say, Tumby, come here, Tumbelina, come in here. And my other grandma would go, yeah, Tumbelina. When is she going to teach you Tumbelina?
Well, we had the, remember, first and foremost, we had a huge family. Right. So it's 11 brothers and sisters, and then we'd have the addition of aunts and uncles and the weirdo uncle or aunt. The strays that would come to help support, and you know, and then the invitees that would
bring guests.
That would bring people. So there was always, especially at the farm, there was always an occasion where there was a lot of food. So the older children, like my sister Cookie and Caroline, and they had a lot of exposure. At that time, they were older, so they could absorb it more. I was kind of in the middle of that. So I used to be woken up by the smell of meatballs frying.
Wow.
You know, that to me is a distinct memory that every time I smell meatballs frying,
brings you right back.
It brings me there to that moment. But Caroline certain family members got certain things. Like Fran, my sister Fran, she got the panzerotti.
Right.
She got that, she does them well. Caroline does all the bonuts and all the cookies and strufli, the specialty things that my grandmothers used to make.
Yes.
You know, so just like any good family, there's always a good recipe that someone attaches themselves to. And I think that all of us, you know, throughout the family, that we've had those recipes throughout our lives that we make our own way.
Yeah, there are some you don't touch, you don't mess with, and then there are others which which is more the case for us, we tweaked and we made it our own.